Yeah, well, there's three kinds of fasting, basically, in a nutshell, if you look at it. One kind of fasting is what you call, for most people, would be an extreme version of fasting, which is just water fasting. And that's when you just consume water over the course of a day or so, and nothing else. So that fasting I don't recommend for people to start with at all. That's for people who are very well practiced at fasting on vegetable juice or superfood powders, things like that. Water fasting is something that you get to over a period of time. So I just want to be really clear about that up front. And obviously you need to be, as we talk about fasting, we need to be appropriate and just say, look, for some people fasting isn't appropriate. So on my website you can find warnings around fasting and what to do in that. So it's important to be appropriate with fasting. But fasting is basically just taking in liquids for a period of time, essentially. So one is water fasting. The second kind of fasting, which is the one I do the most of and what I recommend and I teach, which is what I call a regular intelligent fasting, or RIF for short, is vegetable juice fasting. So you make up a vegetable juice. You might sprinkle some spirulina powder in there, possibly, a little bit of algae powder or barley grass powder, just for a little bit green nutritional goodness. And you just have that for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner. I've got myself to a point where, because I have fasted on and off for 35 years, for a long time, and I've fasted for weeks and weeks at a time, so I'm very experienced in fasting and I teach fasting. I've got myself to the point where I can water fast quite easily for a day or two or three or 4 or 5 days. It's quite easy for me, but I don't recommend that for people. I just want to be really clear about that. So yeah, fasting is when you stop taking anything into the body. And the thing about fasting is it's the most natural thing there is. Most people, when you talk about fasting, they think, oh, isn't that a bit radical? Isn't that a bit weird?
3 meals a day, you should eat breakfast.
Exactly, you've got to keep the metabolism up and have the little snacks and all that, My advice is the complete opposite of that. Why do I say that? Because I'll give you 3 examples of why I say fasting is the most natural. I mean, it is the single most powerful natural healing mechanism that we know of. Why? Firstly, throughout history, we've always run out of food. Throughout our whole genetic history, and our DNA hasn't changed for 40,000 years. We've had the same DNA. At the very minimum, no change in human DNA. We're exactly the same as when we were cavemen. So when we look at the human DNA in cavemen and how we behave throughout history, was there always a service station or a supermarket open 24/7 to give us the worst high-calorie junk food available ever? No, there wasn't, right? There wasn't there. We'd run out of food. So when we look at every generation in history, all throughout the world, all over planet Earth, there was regular famine. We used to run out of food. Because, Mother Nature would say, you know what? I think I'm going to have a volcano today. And the volcano would erupt. It would wipe out all the food. There'd be no food. Or Mother Nature might say, oh, I'm going to rain lots for 6 weeks and wipe out all your food. So there'd be no food. So human beings, we've found ourselves, as we've evolved, in environments where there is no food. And so there's only 2 choices when there's no food. One choice is you die. One choice is you fast. So we've been in that situation a lot, and we've developed this incredible ability to hold on to food for when we fast, when we need to fast. And that's called feast and famine. And that's why we're so good at holding on to weight. We notice the world is in the grips of this massive obesity and overweight epidemic, which is causing a myriad of problems. We know as soon as you start to get body weight around the waist and you start to hold on it there, you raise your risk of breast cancer, of bowel cancer, of heart disease, of type 2 diabetes, of all the causes of death. We know that, right? So the bigger you are, the higher the risk of dying young. And we've got the last few generations now are the biggest generations in history. And we know New Zealand is one of the biggest countries in the world in terms of our body size. We're either number 2 or number 3, depending on where Australia is at any given time, behind America. And you look at Canada and the UK, all over the world, it's happening. And what we've forgotten to do is how to fast. And we don't have to fast anymore, so fasting becomes a choice. Whereas through history, you had to. When the volcano erupts and wipes out the food, you can't go, oi, give me some food. You go, oh, okay. And what the body then does is it turns to the stored fuel on the body. And we call, when we've got body weight on the human body, we call it body fat. But what it is stored fuel. And it's stored on the body, and that's why we hang on to body fat so well. That's why we hold body fat, and that's why you've got an environment now where there's the worst, high sugar, high meat, highly processed, low fiber foods, that the modern diet. We suck onto that, we get addicted to it, and then we hold on to it because the body knows there's fasting coming. Genetically, we know there's a famine coming. Because there's always been famines. For 40,000 years, there's been famines. The last 100 years, there hasn't. But you can imagine when you look at 40,000 years of human beings, the last 100 years,
Tiny.
It's a tiny little millisecond. Our bodies are exactly the same. They're saying, we know there's a famine coming. We know there's a famine coming. It's a famine. Got to hang on to the weight. Hang on to the food. I eat more food. That's why we will constantly eat and eat and eat and eat and eat, because the body will store it because it's waiting for a famine. So we're built for famine. But now it becomes a choice. So fasting now being a choice is quite different to what it used to be. So you've got water fasting, vegetable juice fasting, or vegetable juice with superfoods. They're the three basic ways to fast.
And what's the key benefits of fasting? How does it affect the body?
Yeah, well, there's a myriad of ways, and a good example of that is if you've ever been around children when they get unwell, or animals. Have you got pets? No? Okay, well, if you're around any kind of animal in the world, when they get unwell, there's one thing that all animals do. The first thing they do when they get unwell, do you know what it is?
Stop eating.
Stop eating, exactly. The very first thing every biological creature in the world will do is stop eating. What animals do in the wild is they'll stop eating, they'll find a source of fresh water, and they'll curl up next to the river. They'll hide themselves so they don't get eaten by, lions and tigers or whatever. They'll curl up next to the river, and they'll drink water and they'll sleep. And then they'll drink water and then they'll sleep. And they'll drink water and then they'll sleep. And why do they do that? Because instinctually they know, stop eating, I'm unwell, conserve energy, the body will fix itself. See, 60% of our energy at any one time is taken on digesting food. And when you add to that the junk food that we eat now, the high sugar, high salt, high gluten, high fat, it's up to 80% of your energy. Little wonder that mid-afternoon everyone gets tired and wants to fall asleep. It's because of the junk food. So what the body is designed to do is when it gets unwell, it says, I'm not hungry. You lose your appetite. Leave me alone. I'll fix myself. Just leave me alone and I'll do it. The body then completely transforms, and as soon as you stop eating, all those enzymes that are generally in the stomach getting ready to digest food, they go to the outer peripherals of the body. They start eating away at the dead, diseased, and dying and decaying cells, what I call the 4 Ds. All the cells that are dead, diseased, dying, or decaying. The body starts eating them, recycling the proteins, and regrowing new cells. So when you fast, you literally eat the old, discard the waste, and grow the new. So you literally grow younger. It's why you look so much younger when you're fasting, because you literally are younger. You've got younger cells. So the body is eating away the waste and the old cells and getting rid of it and growing youthful cells. So, one advantage is that you're much more youthful and you're generally a lot younger in biological age than your age. Your skin transforms because fasting is the most effective way to clean the liver. And your liver is in charge of your skin. So if you want glowing skin, you've got to have a healthy liver. And the liver, by the way, dictates how long you live as well. Very important. So looking after the liver is really important. We know with alcohol and all the challenges now for the liver that we have in society, sugar and meat and all those things. So it transforms your biological age. It transforms your skin. It completely rewires your immune system. And how it does that is by changing your mitochondria, your microbiome and your gut cells, your probiotic bacteria. It changes all that and helps you grow younger. So it literally changes how your genetic expression works in the gut. It gives the body a chance to get rid of the waste and flush it out of the body. And it stimulates your immune system. I mean, it's phenomenal. It's a phenomenal process. And the thing about fasting is there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it in terms of, what actually happens when we fast. There's nothing even remotely close to it in terms of what it does to the human body. Lowering heart disease risk, lowering high blood pressure. We can talk about that in the research as well a bit later on. So as a way of preventing disease, that's how I like to put it. Obviously fasting is a part of the anti-cancer treatments as well. So for those people that are very unwell, every anti-cancer treatment facility in the world uses fasting as part of the healing. So it tends to raise the alkalinity in the body, lower the acidity, remove the waste, clean the bowel, stimulate the immune system, lower the blood pressure, clean the heart, clean the blood, get rid of the old cells. I mean, it's, what's not to like? Oh, and lose weight too. You burn fat. Obviously, you burn body fat because the body turns to burn that body fat. So, the benefits of fasting are myriad. They're just on and on and on.